Hey, what's going on, guys? This is David Liggins II, your host of eComWhiz podcast presented by FeedbackWhiz. Today, we have a very special guest, Stephen Pope, who is a thought leader in the Amazon space. He's going to bring a lot of information to the podcast today, and I'm excited to bring him on. So let's get started.
Welcome to the eComWhiz podcast. A podcast that helps Amazon sellers to dominate the marketplace. And I do mean dominate. Dominate! Each week, we deliver the best interviews with some of the top Amazon influencers in the industry. This is the eComWhiz podcast.
Stephen, good to have you on the podcast. I'm excited for this one. I think we have a lot of good information that we're going to give to the audience today. If you don't mind, just give a quick introduction about yourself, maybe a little bit of your background, and where can people find you?
So I have over 600 videos of content on YouTube. You can find me at youtube.com/myamazonguy. And we are thought leaders in the Amazon space to help all Amazon sellers grow. My Amazon Guy in 30 seconds. We grow sales faster on Amazon, everything from traffic and PPC through SEO and PPC, as well as catalog management for conversion improvements and design like A+ content. So that's us in a nutshell. Over 50 employees and 160 active full service clients today. So excited to join you. Thanks for having me on, David.
No problem. I mean, that's pretty amazing, actually, Stas. I didn't know that. And a lot of clients and great business, man. I really appreciate that. I do a little bit of small consulting on the side, and I say on the side, but I'm in the Amazon's, every day, all day.
I side hustle consulted on Amazon for like 6 years before I made an agency. So one day you're going to call me up and be like, Stephen, I'm now at 20 employees as an agency.
One day, right? One can dream. Maybe it will come true. So. Man, so I'm really excited about this topic, Steve, because I know we talked offline a little bit about it. We're going to be focusing on what do we need to do as smaller sellers, these mom and pop people who are trying to get their entrepreneur spirits through Amazon, FBA, et cetera, and e-commerce, and what they're doing with the aggregators that are in the space and are coming onto the ecosystem, the Amazon ecosystem, and just e-commerce in general, and what that's like in disrupting the space and what you need to do in order to stay competitive in that space. And so I can bring you a little bit of information from kind of my side of things as being a seller, one of the smaller sellers, and what I do. But honestly, man, this is a lot of knowledge. I'm actually really looking forward to this because I'm really interested in what you think, since you're like definitely a thought leader in this area. So
what I like to do, and I'm super passionate about this topic, right? Because like the landscape is changing right now. So as an Amazon seller, you have to be looking at the landscape to understand what to do. So on the left, you've got the Chinese coming in and selling direct to consumer in mass right now, right? So that's going to put commodity pricing pressure on you from the left. Coming in from the right is the Amazon aggregators. These are FBA acquirers with over $2 billion that just entered the space in the month of February alone, right? Like these are aggregators like Thrasio, Heyday, a lot of money coming in. Quite frankly, you could even say a lot of stupid money coming in. There's so much money coming in, right? So you got aggregators coming in from the right. And then on the top, you've got Amazon increasing the complexity to sell on the platform. And what I mean by that is pesticides, gating issues, and documentation, and all the other stuff, right? Brand registry, whatever. All of these things, as an Amazon seller, you're a mom and pop, and you're looking at the left of the Chinese, you're looking right at the aggregators, and you look up at Amazon, and you're getting squeezed as a mom and pop seller right now. So that sounds a little scary, and we'll talk about that today. The first thing I would say is, don't be scared. Just keep your head out of the hole, right? Like you got to know and you got to keep track of what's going on. That's the most important message I will give today. Simply just keep yourself informed, because information is king and will allow you flexibility to manage your business. The second most important thing I'll tell you is I'm extremely bullish about opportunities to sell on Amazon. The Chinese, the aggregators, Amazon, and you as the Amazon mom and pop are all going to win over the next 2 years. So 2 years bullish beyond belief. Everybody's going to win. With that said, if after looking at the complexities and your listings keep getting yanked and your sales are starting to slow down and you're wondering, what should I do? You may want to consider selling your business this year. EBITDA, in my opinion, is going to go up by 40% by year end. I think it's already a seller's market today. And I think the longer you hold out, the more money you will get if you choose to exit your business. Now, mind you, I'm an agency. I do not benefit from you exiting your business. In fact, it may actually hurt me. I might lose some clients, right? Especially if you're a client of my Amazon guy listening to this. But the reason I do this is because I feel so strongly that people need to be aware of what's going on to make proper decisions so that they manage their business appropriately. I have interviewed personally more than 20 large $100 million plus capital raised Amazon aggregators. I know what they're up to. And don't be scared by it, just be aware of it. So Thrasio is by and large ahead of everybody. These guys raised $1 billion in 2020. They raised an extra $750 million in a Series B a couple weeks ago.
Wow, I didn't know they raised that much money. Wow.
An amazing amount of money. So Thrasio operated in the shadows for a time. There was a predecessor to Thrasio that failed. Thrasio was successful. And then one day, Thrasio shows up at a big Amazon conference. It's the one in Vegas. It starts with Prosper, and it might be a show. And they were like, yeah, we buy Amazon businesses. And at that point, they went viral, and it's been viral ever since. So these guys have a complex infrastructure in place. Nobody can touch these guys. With that said, most of the Amazon aggregators, I'd say the bulk of them, 75% or greater, are just getting started. Like just getting started, like sub 10 brands acquired getting started. And so you're going to see them acquire anywhere from 5, 10, 15, 20 brands a month throughout the rest of this year. That's a lot of sales, right? Like I'm a big fan of Quiet Life Brokerage. I think they have like 14 or 15 deals ever going on at one time. And then imagine there was like 100 Quiet Life brokerages out there now. That's what it's like right now. Like that's what we're about to experience. So people are it's a seller's market because of that. There's a buying craze. And so what the money that's coming in for the aggregators is primarily Series 1, Series A venture capital. Mm-hmm. So people it's almost like going to a casino and putting $100 million on black. The VC guys know that if they put it on black enough times, they will eventually win. And that's why they do what they do. But the money is so early right now, the disruption has not been felt, in my opinion, not by and large, like 1 or 2% disruption, like 20% more to go this year. And then after this year, maybe next year, maybe the year after that, so 2022, 2023 is when we're going to see the public sector enter the space. And between now and then, it's going to be a ton of money invested into tech, people, processes to manage all these businesses. Most of the aggregators do not understand at the time what it actually takes to run an Amazon business. So a guy like you, David, like you've been through pesticides removing your products. You've been through all kinds of logistics and other nightmares. I could only guess and venture to guess. You understand it. You've paid your tax. A lot of the people listening to this podcast have also paid their Amazon tax.
Absolutely.
Most of these aggregators have no idea what this tax is. They have no idea. They are capitalists who have a ton of venture capital money, and they understand finance and Excel sheets. They have no idea what they're getting into. So I've interviewed them to basically figure out like what makes them tick and what makes them understand like, what business they want, where they want to go, all that good stuff. I am hedging bets as an agency. Like, do I need to make a service offering for the aggregators, or will I be the last bastion for the mom and pop, right? So like I'm playing both sides, no doubt.
Absolutely. You have to look out for your business too. So
yeah. But by and large, the mom and pops have been my business model from day one. And so that's probably where I'm going to stick to my lane most likely. And I might be the last bastion for mom and pop sellers. But I am flirting to see like what that world looks like. I've never really done well with the corporate entities. Like I'm not going to bring 15 people to a phone call to make a decision on a title, right? Like that's like the corporate entities out there. That's not us. we bring two people to a call, we make decisions, then we go get work done, right? Like that's us. So mom and pop's probably the model for us. Anyway, so I know that was a long monologue, David. You can pick and pull wherever you want to go from here.
Absolutely. So one thing, so I know a lot of the audience are going to be people who are not in those spaces, right? They're not Amazon crushing us, obviously, and not the aggregators, for example. So we are the mom and pop. And so you feel that there's still a future for us in Amazon's ecosystem as far as FBA?
100% feel that way. Now, with that said, you need to increase your sophistication. Failure to do so will result in your business declining.
So 2 things here. What does that actually look like? So what does it look like that you need to make sure that you're tailoring your business, making sure that you're understanding how to be maybe competitive in this marketplace also? And also, if maybe give it insight on what are those aggregators kind of looking for? Is it just cash cow money? Are they looking for profitable businesses that they're buying up? So are there things that we can focus on, like brand building, for example, or communicating with a customer that can step us apart from just people just buying up businesses because they're making money online, for example?
So let's dissect both those questions. I think those are both great questions. So the first thing I would say is I've created some content around what the aggregators are looking for. So if you go into amazonaggregators.com or go to myamazonguy.com, scroll to the very bottom left and click on the Amazon aggregators link. If you can't spell aggregator, because it's not an easy one. And in here, I've put together a form fill. If you want to sell to a business, put your information in there and I will introduce you to the aggregator that is a good fit for you. And I've chosen this after interviewing them, documenting what they're looking for and who knows what and what they're trying to do. So for example, there is an aggregator that I work with that is actively buying supplements brands. And every other aggregator I've spoken to wants nothing to do with supplements, like nothing, right? Like they're like, the amount of changes happening in the space scares them. So if you're a supplements brand and you talk to me, I can tell you which brand to go talk to. You'll get your best bang for your buck. The other thing I would say is that obviously they're looking for some of the basics to be checked. Have your brand registered, make a trademark, make sure you use an FBA, have some profit and margin. They want SDE or EBITDA above 1 million annual. They want to understand, and by the way, if you're just a million gross, they'll talk to you, right? Like they'll make an offer. But if you have 1 million in profit, that's what they're truly looking for. And some of the bigger aggregators, that's what they really want.
$1 million profit, what, like a maybe $4 to $5 million business, roughly? We're getting there.
It could be. there's a lot of different ranges on that, right? 100%. But the bigger the aggregator, the more likely they want to see larger numbers. But by and large, though, 80% of the aggregators are so early entrant, they'll buy anything. Now, the things that they won't buy is anything that's seasonal or related to COVID-19 or trendy. Almost every single one I spoke to, they want to make sure it's like sustainable and will grow for years to come. They want high quality brands that have built a base. They want loyal customers. They want a niche. They want to make sure you're not running any black hat tactics and it's not a fad, those kinds of things. All right, so that's what they're looking for. The other part of your question is like, how can we compete against the aggregators? And the answer to that question is simply go build a community. You cannot beat the Chinese at pricing. 100%. Concede that ground right now. Not doable. Okay. So if you can't win the left, you got to beat the right. And so by the left, I mean the Chinese going direct to consumer, and by the right, I mean the Amazon aggregators. And so the way to beat the aggregators is to build such great, compelling product detail pages with a community that backs you up. So for example, at My Amazon Guy, we do live Q&A sessions and we answer questions to add back to the community, right? And that's our way of community building. So by the time they get on a sales call with my father, Dan Pope, who does our sales funnel, they already are bought in. That's how I've built my community, right? Like they're bought in before they even talk to us to buy. So for you as an Amazon brand selling on Amazon, the equivalent for that would be have an Instagram, a Facebook, or another platform of your choice, maybe even YouTube, where you answer the top 10 questions that face your target demographic. For example, here's where I get a little crazy. But if you were trying to sell a Russian mail order bride, who is your target demographic? Your target demographic, and usually I like to have like a 5-minute conversation on this, but I know I don't have time to do that today. So I'm just going to go straight to the answer. Your target demographic, if you're selling a Russian mail order bride, is a 3-time divorced truck driver. Now, a portion of your audience is going to be offended that I've gone here, and I get it, and I've lost you, is what it is. But for the rest of you where I've now caught your attention, the reason that is the perfect target demographic, where instead of saying I sell a toothbrush, my target demographic is everybody with teeth. It's too broad, too wide of a tent, and you will lose your audience, right? So like I have purposely been a bit out there with my content where where I talk about Russian mail order brides, because I'm looking for a very specific target audience. I'm looking for mom and pops who are not part of the cancel culture, who are willing to roll their sleeves up. So like I know how to attract my audience. I know what they want. I know what they talk to, etc. You need to do the same thing for your Amazon brand. So if you sell a torch flame for a kitchen item, right? If you sell an item that has a base, you need to figure out who your target demographic is and then answer their questions. When I did a coaching call the other day with a company for their blowtorch. And I immediately thought, oh, this is a female item in the kitchen for creme brulee, right? I immediately made that assumption. All of the pictures were generic, nothing about male or female, nothing. So first thing I did, I went to their brand analytics dashboard, which by the way is your hack of the pod today. Go to your brand analytics dashboard. Go look in and see what your demographics are. It will surprise you, most likely. So this product skewed 65% men between the ages of 45 and up. And I had no idea, did not see this coming, right? I'm like, how can this be? I thought this was a kitchen equipment item for a stay-at-home mom. And lo and behold, it's actually probably a 2-time divorced dude who just wants to impress the ladies coming over for dinner and then light up a cigar.
Light up a cigar. I was gonna say cigarette or something. I'm like, man, this has to be like something impressive. Okay. What?
So
that's crazy.
So I did not see that coming. And so once I saw the data for skew male, I was like, how is this possible? I then looked at 10 competitor products and I looked at every single image on those listings. And then I finally found the cigar shot and I was like, that's it. That's the thing. It's dudes who want to look like they're cool cooks in the kitchen, and they happen to also want to light up a cigar after on the weekends or whatever, right? And so now that we understand the true target demographic, that it's probably 2-time divorce guys trying to date on Tinder, then we know that the next 10 questions we need to answer to build a community is all about those dudes, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how you build community. That's how you beat the aggregators. The aggregators will not understand what we just talked about.
Wow.
Because it will be uncomfortable for them. They will not sit in a boardroom with their other corporate folk, other corporate money, and talk about Russian mail order brides. They won't do it.
But you have to understand your audience, though. You have to understand your audience. And once you understand your audience, the messaging around it is just selling to them, communicating with them, and helping them understand your brand a bit better. So that's how you connect. So I can't believe that they would do that, invest all this money and not understand their customer. That's pretty crazy.
I mean, this is a theory, right? Like I could be wrong, but my theory is the suits will not understand that you don't cast a wide tent. I think that you cast a narrow tent and you will have more people in it. And you want to polarize your audience, right? You actually physically want to polarize the audience. So if we were redoing that blowtorch item for Kitchen Gadget, it should be plaster full of semi-attractive 45-year-old men who look like they're about to get laid because they have a blowtorch, and it should just be completely about them. And then that way, when the female comes to the listing, they actually are more likely to engage because, oh, I need to buy this for my man. Right? He'll grill me a steak, or he'll finish the steak on the grill, or he'll make me creme brulee. Holy crap! Like I want to buy this. Like so, when you polarize the audience, you actually attract a larger tent. And then your conversion rates go up, and then all of a sudden your keyword rankings go up, your PPC costs go down because, by the way, most people don't know this, but if you have higher conversion rates, your PPC bids are discounted. And so you have a big advantage. So you gotta build a community, you gotta brand build, you gotta target your demographics, and that's how
Absolutely.
you're gonna beat the Amazon aggregators.
And so there's one thing here to give you a little bit of a break here. There's one thing that I wanted to touch on also that you mentioned. And so I just want to go out and say that, when we say like the Chinese suppliers and competitors, it's because a lot of our products are manufactured in China, and on Amazon's ecosystem, a lot of people from the Far East are getting onto Amazon. So just for people who are a little bit more sensitive to that, we're not just picking on China or anything like that. It's just that they are our major competitors and they manufacture a lot of our products. So when we talk about not competing with them on price, because we cannot out manufacture a lot of the things that we're selling on Amazon or any place, than they can. And then when they go direct to customers, they're just what I've seen. And you can tell me if I'm wrong. And what I've seen is a lot of them, they're getting better, but most are just trying to make the buck. They're just trying to come in at the cheapest product possible, create a listing that sells okay, and and try to just make money off of that. There's a lot of reasons for why they're doing it this way, but it's easier for them to like move. They're a little bit more nimble. They can create like, oh, this product's selling fast, I'm gonna hop on the listing too, or I'm gonna create another listing and go in and just at the lowest price and try to beat everybody out the market. And so what I've seen is, for me as a smaller seller trying to compete, is building products that are solving problems, but also differentiating them in a way that's not as easy for Chinese competitors to copy. Because they don't want to, for example, one of the smaller, I guess, things I'm doing is like bundling products bundling products that are that make sense, that also solve a problem. And so when doing that, a lot of these competitors don't worry about it. I've seen people enter my space and they still enter with the same Me Too product. And I've been selling my bundle for the last 2 years and nobody has come close to touching it. And I don't understand why. I'm glad that's the case, but nobody's come close to touching it or copying me in that sense. The only thing I could think of is that they're just not willing to put in that type of work. Some are though. There are some manufacturers who are getting really good of creating better listings and communicating a bit better, and are doing good enough to where they maintain at the top, they can get the reviews, etc. And they don't have the same repercussions that we do when we do something against terms of service. They can create another account, come back up, and it's like whack-a-mole every single time. So these are just some of the smaller things that I say smaller, but these are the things that I'm doing in order to kind of really try to kind of separate myself from just the generic cheap product that's being sold on Amazon. I really focus on quality. I have an amazing listing that's being built, a good grasp of the English language, also make sure that my copy is, top notch, but I also try to differentiate by solving problems and building things that are just not off the shelf. And I know a lot of people who are just getting started into this business, and some people who are currently selling right now are running into problems where Chinese manufacturers are just pretty much copying their products or copying the things that they're selling and forcing them out of the market with lower pricing.
And that's a huge risk, and that's why you got to build the brand recognition. You got to build the community, because if I were to ask 100 random people, so I'll ask you in the audience, right? Visualize this with me. What was the last item you bought on Amazon? Now, the next question, what was the brand name of the item you just bought? 97% of them will not know the answer to that question unless they bought something like Tide Pods, right? Like but like most common commodity items, right? So if I were to, I just happen to be playing with this beer bottle opener, right? Like if I were to ask myself where I bought this from, I wouldn't even know, right? Like nobody does, because Amazon has killed brands. And so you need to do everything you can to build your brand and navigate that. So, I sell funny wine glasses on Amazon. So I happen to be drinking from this silly, like, Mrs. Always Right, because my wife ran me a glass here between the sessions. My best wine glass on Amazon ranked organic in the top 1 or 3 slots in the last 7 days. And it's called I'm Not Drinking Alone, I'm Social Distancing. I have a 42% conversion rate on this item. Over 1,500 reviews. Yeah, it's too high. I need to bring it down. And by the way, I'm being serious. Like I need to spend more money on PPC, but whatever.
They're gonna think that you're manipulating over there with a 42% conversion. Holy.
I mean, like this is a side hustle brand that I just use for demonstration purposes that I put very little time into. So like my listings aren't even perfect. And I do no external traffic. I do no review generation.
Wow.
Like strategies at all. Although I have used FeedbackWhiz for 2 years on my Monster brand, and I highly endorse FeedbackWhiz. That not just saying that, I've used it for 2 years. And I'm a big fan of what FeedbackWhiz has built. So if you're
Absolutely.
listening to this podcast and you haven't engaged in FeedbackWhiz, you need to. It's going to help you.
Absolutely. I've used FeedbackWhiz since the moment I've heard about them, really. This is a couple of years ago. I say couple now, but maybe a few years ago, when they would just help you engage with customers to follow up with reviews, because we know that we just get these 1-star reviews that don't really seem right. We wanted to engage, kind of make it right. It was very difficult to do on Amazon within terms of service. And there was a way for us to able to do that. So they stopped that, and then they just kind of transitioned. And I used them primarily for my I wouldn't say primarily, but I use them solely on my email campaigns when sending it out. Like, this is the FeedbackWhiz is who I go to as far as the service that I want to use for follow-up. And it's absolutely been wonderful. When I launch new products, I get reviews, and customer responses within days of launching a product. And it's just pretty amazing seeing that. You can see your open rates. You can see when you change the title. It's just a great set of software and apps that they're building out and continuing to expand on. So again, it's not because I'm a host of, on the podcast. It's just that I absolutely love their product. And that's why they did come to me and say, hey, Dave, do you want to be the host of a new podcast? And so I took them up on it. So if you haven't checked it out, absolutely do it, guys. It's a wonderful tool. But just to continue on with the conversation, so what are the things that you feel like, we talked about brand building. We talked about engaging with the customer and making sure we're stepping ourselves away from like really doing Me Too products and things of that nature, and really just engaging and understanding that avatar, if you will, that customer.
I like that word. It's better than Russian mail order bride. Avatar is much better.
And so, can you give us another example of something that we can do as far as smaller sellers like ourselves to really compete in the space and kind of to push forward? From my experiences, like I said, I've just really tried to differentiate, solve problems, build amazing listings, great copy, and it seems to be treating me well. But I could still feel the pressure sometimes, and especially when companies have these budgets that I just can't touch, doing this on my own, for example. So is there another tip that you can give for some of these more intermediate or advanced sellers to really keep going?
Always launch 3 products at the same time.
3 completely different products or in the same niche? What do you?
Yeah, different products, because this isn't a diversity play. This is a numbers game, right? So for every 3 products that I launch, 1 out of 3 loses money, 1 out of 3 breaks even, and the third one is exceptional and pays for the batch. And so if you always launch 3 products at a time, you're going to be way better off than going all in on a single product. Notice how I didn't say go launch 100 products. I didn't say shotgun it. I said launch 3. Mm-hmm. And if you launch 3, the rule of 3 usually checks out. The other thing I'd say is even Amazon experts like me make mistakes all the time. I tried to go into hot sauce. Okay.
Oh,
this
wow.
is a 5-pound glass bottle, sweet heat, marinade and sauce I'm holding in my hand. And right now, I discontinued this item because I failed, right? Like this is one of my lost products. So what happened with this item was, I get this great tasting product. I spend $1,500 making and designing the label of the item, right? And I launched this thing, and lo and behold, what does Amazon do? I paid them to do the prep work. So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, they're going to bubble wrap this, get it safely to the destination of my choosing. Nope, they shipped it in padded envelopes.
No way.
I paid them to do the prep. They shipped it all in padded envelopes. So I immediately was like, whoops, I guess I just didn't understand that quite frankly, Amazon sometimes is pretty incompetent.
No way.
It can be super frustrating, right? And so I have war stories, you have war stories. Everybody listening to this podcast that's at least a year deep into Amazon Seller Central has war stories like that. And so always have a 5 to 10% crap hits the fan percentage that you understand you need to, be ready for the black swan events, right? Here's another tip: buy a year's supply of inventory if your item is successful. Do not wait, because commodity pricing is going up. It would be cheaper for you to store it, even though 3PLs are full and Amazon FBA is full. Even despite all of that, I recommend that you go all in on your inventory right now, because the next black swan event that runs through, and you don't have the inventory to sell, and all of your competition makes the money, you're going to be kicking yourself. Now, that isn't to say like tie up all your money in inventory. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is tie up a portion of your money in inventory.
Stephen, I'm gonna ask you a question here. It's not a challenge because I am going through that right now. Just kind of piggyback off of that. I've been in this niche for quite some time, like a couple of years now. I'd say quite some time, but a couple of years now. And there's been some really, really good months, and there's been some very kind of slow months at the same time. It's kind of break even, maybe losing a couple bucks to making thousands of dollars of profit, within weeks type of thing. It's really sporadic. I haven't been able to gauge it yet. I think it's because maybe, Amazon was going through how they're like geo ranking, and maybe I'm ranked in certain places better than others in different regions, et cetera. And, sometimes I'm top 5 and sometimes I'm just top 10 type of thing. It's just a lot of different changes and different variables. But right now, I had that product. I haven't been able to keep this product in stock for the last year. Yes, I know we've been in a pandemic, logistic problems all over the place, inventory limits all over the place. But the issue with this one, I feel like, is my lead time is 2 months and has grown to closer to 3 months now. I literally sold out 2 months of inventory in 12, 13 days.
Great problem.
Great problem to have, except when you can't get any more in. And so now I'm just sitting here looking at my business at, like minuscule sales, because it's like this product, this particular brand, because this brand only has one product at the moment, a newer brand for this one, or that I was trying to grow before the pandemic. And it's just like, it's just sitting there because I'm like waiting for the inventory to come in. Now, the problem here is though, a container of this product costs between $30,000 and $33,000 landed.
So big cost.
It's a big cost.
Especially with containers like costing like $9,000 instead of $3,000 just to ship.
Yeah, exactly. So my 20-foot is roughly around $4,000 or $5,000 now. I think actually maybe closer to $6,000 for my 20-foot container, when normally it would average between $2,500 to $3,200.
Yeah, so almost everybody's seeing 2.5.
So it's just been what, and so we've had to supplement, like try to increase prices. But one of the things I see now in my niche is that there are a lot of people that are out of stock. Most of my main competitors are out of stock. There's been people, I've seen new entrants, new competitors, mostly from out east, that are coming to the market with like 0 reviews, and they're just selling hundreds a day because there's nobody that can actually get them in stock. But they're having some of the same problems that I have. And so what would you recommend in this scenario? Like I can't go out and buy a year's worth of inventory of this particular product. One, I don't even know what a year's worth of inventory will look like right now. And then 2, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars at this moment. So for me, I'm trying to buy 4 months worth of inventory, with the lead time that I have of between 60 and 75 days. And I still think that I'm going to sell out.
No way that's going to be solvent. You just explained you sold 2 months of supply in 13 days. Yeah. So what you just told me is that your 2 months supply is actually 12 days, right? So like this is like you have to go out and buy what you currently thought prior to those 12 days was a year's supply, which is probably more like a 5-month supply, and you got to finance it, right? So like one of my favorite sayings is, if money can solve it, it's not a problem, it's an expense, right? And so you have an expense problem. And so what I would say is you got to find the money. And there are so many funding options that have launched just in the last 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Even the guy that used to do this podcast is in charge of, I won't say who he is or where he's up to, but like even he's at a company that does funding, right? So like there are so many funding options out there. Right. And so if you're listening to this and you're in the exact same situation as David, my advice to you is find a way to overcome your expenses and finance it. Absolutely. Be bullish. It's okay if you're paying 5 or 10% interest rate this year, because if I'm right, you're going to flip it within 4 months. Yeah, if I'm wrong, you have a year's supply of inventory, and you can sleep easy at night, because the next Black Swan event, when all of your competitors stock out, you still have stock.
You still have stock. And so that's exactly what I'm doing, by the way. I wanted to just get your opinion on that. I'm actually trying to get funding. I've gotten some. So right now I should be, once it gets in, I should be covered, for around 3 months or so. But I still feel like I need right now another, container or two for my product, just to kind of sit there and be ready and be prepped. So But it's a good problem to have, but I'm hoping that it continues with this surge. It continues with this velocity. And that's one of the things that's very difficult to kind of plan out, is that typical velocity with your inventory when things just spike. You know, is it going to stay here? Is this where we're going to be for the next 6 months to a year? Or are we just having a little blip here and it's going to come back down to kind of normal velocities, which is okay. 20 to 30 units a day is still a decent velocity for this product. It's kind of right around like $60 or so. So I mean, I'm still perfectly fine with that, but yeah, so that's kind of the situation that I'm running into at the moment.
If you run into finance issues, come back, hit me up. I will finance it myself. I think what you're doing is amazing and I want to be part of it. So let me know.
I appreciate you, boss. Anyways, guys, we're getting close to our time here. I just wanted to have you on, man. Steven, it's been a pleasure, man. It's been a great day with conversation between us. And so I really appreciate you coming on to the eComWhiz podcast. It was great having you, man. You dropped a lot of knowledge as always. And I look forward to more future maybe podcasts and talks with you as we, kind of build our relationship going forward. So
absolutely, David. Look forward to it. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks for coming on, man. I'll see you again.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and for more information, please visit feedbackwhiz.com.